Welcome back, everyone. Today's case is the Dan Wozniak case, and the theme for the case is don't quit your day job, okay? Except in this case, you have to change it a little bit to Dan Wozniak should have gotten a day job, all right? Dan Wozniak should have gotten a day job. That'll make sense later. So for this case, we have to jump back all the way to 2010, which really is 11 years ago now. It's crazy. But anyways, we have to jump back to 2010 for this case, and we're in Orange County, California. And now everyone likes to talk about how this case happened in Southern California. They're like, it happened in Orange County, California. You know, it's crazy. California dream, right? You know, and they give some cliched description of life in Southern California. Like everyone's just having fun all of the time. Nothing bad ever happens. And they're probably showing some pictures of some attractive people at the beach. So you get the sense that, you know, nothing could ever happen here. No one could ever get murdered here, right? Look at those people at the beach, right? No. But anyways. Yeah, they do like to really tell you that it happened in Orange County, California. You know, that's where stars are born, okay? Murders don't happen here. Movie stars come from here, all right? Yeah, enough of that. But anyways, it didn't really have any impact on the case other than the fact that it is a really expensive place to live, and Dan had no money, okay? So who is Dan Wozniak? Dan Wozniak was a community theater actor, okay? Community theater actor. And I say was, okay, he was a community theater actor. Now he's probably in some prison production of, you know, some all-male prison production of Romeo and Juliet. So you can probably find him there in San Quentin. But anyways, Dan Wozniak was a community theater actor, and he was engaged to a woman named Rachel Buffett, and she was a community theater actor as well. So together they had a combined 0 jobs, all right? Together, combined 0 jobs. All they did was act, all right? And they were in debt, they were behind on bills, and they were planning an expensive wedding and an expensive honeymoon. Now, I don't know how much these weddings and honeymoons were going to cost, but everyone always calls them expensive. And now, obviously, expensive is a relative term, okay? And everyone has a different definition of expensive. So mine might be different from yours, but in Dan's case, it is really clear cut. It's really simple, okay? If it wasn't free, it was too expensive for Dan Wozniak. And honestly, if you subscribe to the idea that time is money, there's another old saying, you could argue that existing was probably too expensive for Dan Wozniak if he wasn't trying to get a job, you know? Like anytime he spent at that wedding or on the honeymoon, he could have used that time to get a job, but he didn't, so whatever, you know, I don't know why he didn't do that. They could have just postponed the wedding. Gee, I don't think they could even afford the marriage certificate, let alone the honeymoon and the wedding. So I don't know what they were thinking, but not a lot of things in this case make any sense. Not a lot of things any criminals do make sense to me, you know. I think that's why I'm so interested. But anyways, Dan Wozniak. So he's an actor, and he acts in community theater plays, all right? And now I'm not going to watch Dan Wozniak act. I don't care about this video that much, okay? So I'm not going to go out and find Dan Wozniak's acting footage and, you know, judge him as an actor. But by all accounts, I've heard that he was an okay actor. Here's a quote, okay? He was an above average community theater actor, all right? So I would imagine that he was, you know, a cut above your average Joe in a community theater production. But, you know, he wasn't going to be on Broadway anytime soon. Or off-Broadway, for that matter, you know. So he was probably good. He was probably just good enough to convince himself that, you know, I have a shot or I'm going to make it as an actor. All right. Probably just good enough. Got just enough compliments from friends and family and whatnot to think that he had a legitimate shot at making it in Hollywood as an actor. And no knock on Dan, but the entertainment industry is impossible to get into. It's really hard to break into the entertainment industry, okay? Unless you know people, unless you have connections, it's going to be difficult. You have to be really, really good or really, really attractive. And Dan was neither of those things. He was, moderately attractive, and he was moderately, skilled in acting, but he wasn't that good, and he wasn't that good looking. So, too bad for Dan. I don't think your big break was going to happen. But anyways, I think Dan either was so deluded and thought that his big break was just around the corner, or, he was just a psychopath who wanted money and was going to do whatever it took to pay his bills, except to get a job, of course. I don't know. But Dan Wozniak, he was, an average actor. If you heard the old phrase, I said it was the theme for today's case, don't quit your day job. Yeah, Dan should have gotten a job. Dan should have gotten a day job or a night job or any job, really, to be honest. He could have stand on the corner of an intersection asking for money, and that probably would have been a good idea. He could have gone to the local elementary school, picked out a first grader, and made him or her his accountant, and he would have been better off financially. Dan was a real moron. He was an okay actor, but he couldn't make any good decisions outside of acting. I don't know why, but he was a real moron. So Dan, again, let's recap what we know. He's deeply in debt. He's, a middling community theater actor, and his career as an actor is going essentially nowhere. He's getting paid no money for being a community theater actor. You just do it because you like it, or you're trying to make connections, networking, and whatnot. And he has no job, okay? So that's what we know about Dan. And again, he's married to Rachel Buffett, and she's in the same situation. And they live in LA together, Orange County, and they're neighbors with a man named Samuel Hare. He was a Army veteran. He served in Afghanistan during the Afghanistan War. He served in a combat role, and he saved his money. He saved his money during his time in Afghanistan. It's not like they're paying the Taliban rent money over there when they're serving. So, he saved up his money. There's not a lot to spend money on in, Afghanistan. So he saved up a bunch of money, $62,000, and he made the unfortunate decision to tell Dan that he saved $62,000. So Sam was living in Southern California and going to college to get a degree, obviously, and re-enlist, hopefully, as an officer in the U.S. Army, which is cool that people are still, willing to serve the country even though they don't really have to. Obviously, there isn't any conscription in the United States. You don't have to join the Army, but people still do. So hats off to them. And hats off to Sam. Anyways, Sam, he had $62,000, and he made the mistake of telling Dan that he had $62,000. So Dan, at some point, decides, I'm going to turn to a life of crime to solve my money issues, okay? And now, when you turn to a life of crime, you have a lot of options. And Dan isn't a guy, outside of his debt, Dan hasn't really done anything wrong, okay? Outside of being terrible with money, Dan really hasn't done anything illegal or anything wrong in his life. So the police have no real reason to look at him for any particular reason. So he doesn't have any, eyes on him. He's free to pretty much commit any crime he wants. It's fair game. Well, at least attempt to commit those crimes. It's fair game. So Dan, and now money. Okay, money is obviously the goal here. And money is a really common motive for crime. And as a result of that, there are a lot of crimes that you can commit that have money as an outcome. You know, rob a bank, break into a house, mug someone, you know, I don't know, sell drugs. But Dan, the actor, the genius, he decides, well, let's commit a double homicide to steal my friend's life savings, okay? We're going to commit the worst crime you can commit with the highest penalty, you know, highest punishment, which would be the death penalty. Let's do that. You know, let's do a double homicide instead of, you know, robbing a bank or something like that, or something with credit cards. I don't know. Let's do a double homicide because, you know, I'm such a good actor. I could act my way out of this. So Dan comes up with this, you know, harebrained, extremely convoluted scheme to steal Sam's $62,000. All right. And it starts off with a murder. The murder of Sam. So Dan murders Sam. And now Dan has committed his first murder. And that was on, I'm going to have to look this up too. Okay. All right. So that was on May 21st, 2010. He kills Sam Her. Okay. In his apartment in Los Alamos. And then he lures our next victim, Julie Kibuishi from Japan, into the apartment. And he kills her too. So who is Julie? Julie was Sam's tutor. Like I said earlier, Sam was in college, you know, trying to get his degree to go back to the Army as an officer this time around. Julie was his tutor for a class he wasn't doing too well in, I guess. And that class was anthropology. Again, that doesn't matter, but people like to add it in, you know, for a fact. So she was his anthropology tutor, and they became really good friends. They became really good friends. And it was, you know, it was platonic, but they were really good friends. They were really close. I saw in an interview, his dad asked him, is there anything going on between you two? And he said, no, she's like a kid sister. So Sam thought of Julie as a kid sister, and Julie really looked up to Sam. So Sam would never hurt Julie. That was obvious. But Dan decides to make it look like Sam murdered. He tries to make it look like Sam murdered Julie, and that Sam was on the run, and Sam was the real murderer, not Dan. You know, Dan, I'm just the broke actor living downstairs, right? You know, I'm just the dumbass in the closet, all right? So that's what he does. He leaves Julie's body in the apartment, and he takes Sam's body and disposes of Sam's body in a dumpster nearby. Multiple dumpsters. So as time goes on, they find the bodies. It was actually Sam's dad who found the bodies first. He was supposed to have dinner with Sam. He was supposed to stay at his parents' place that weekend. So he goes to Sam's place and he finds Julie's body and he calls the police. All right. So he calls the police and they find Julie's body. And that's when the investigation starts. And they think, well, we got this Sam guy on the run. He murdered Julie. And now who knows what's going to happen. He served in Iraq. It was a combat role. And Dan acts like he has no idea what happened. He has no clue what's going on. So after a while, it kind of dawns on everyone that Sam would have never hurt Julie. And then, you know, Dan over here is telling this 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid to make withdrawals from an ATM with whose debit card? But Sam's. It's Sam's debit card. He's using Sam's debit card to make $400 withdrawals, okay? And why he chose a 17-year-old to do this, I don't know. Because, 17-year-olds, they always hold up under pressure from the police, right? Yeah. Good job, Dan, picking your people. So he chooses a 17-year-old kid, tells him to make $400 withdrawals from Sam's ATM card that he stole when he murdered him. And they realize that Sam isn't using his card. It isn't him. It's some kid. And then they trace him back to the apartment and they get the kid. And then that's how they find out Dan is involved. So they arrest Dan at his bachelor party. Okay. They arrest Dan at his bachelor party. So they take him in and he starts this acting. When I said I haven't seen Dan acting, I take that back because his interrogation is really all an act. Okay. So he starts he's like, I'm not going to cover for Sam anymore. All right. He's like, he murdered Julie. He's on the run. He fucked up, all of that BS. And Dan thinks he's an amazing actor, thinks he's a great liar, but he's not. And eventually the cops already know what happened. Dan murdered both Julie and Sam for the money and then told the 16-year-old kid to use the ATM to go make withdrawals at $400 increments, which is, not a lot of money. $62,000 isn't a lot of money. It isn't life-changing money, I don't know why he did it. For $62,000, that's not life-changing money, And now he's on death row because he was found guilty for both of the murders because they finally cracked him. And the craziest thing of all of this, he acted like nothing happened. Dan killed Sam. He acted in his play at his, community theater production. And then he killed Julie. So he kills Sam, goes to act in a play, and then he kills Julie. And then the next day he acts like nothing happened. And then, like I said, eventually they get to that kid who's doing the withdrawals at the ATM, and then they eventually link that to Dan, and then Dan gets arrested at his bachelor party where he tries to lie to cops during the interrogation, but he breaks down because, Dan's not a good criminal. His criminal career lasted a couple of weeks, I think. He wasn't bred for this. He wasn't made for this. He was in way over his head. I don't know why he chose, one of the hardest crimes to get away with the highest penalty possible. So I don't know. But anyways, Dan probably thought, well, gee, let's pick double homicide to solve our money problems. Not, a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme. I don't know. Let's just kill people. And that'll make my debt go away, right? So California has the death penalty, but they're not really good about executing people. So Dan is on death row in San Quentin, but he probably won't be put to death by, lethal injection, which is how they do it in California. He'll probably end up dying of natural causes in his prison cell at the age of, God knows how old he'll be. Probably 80 or something. That's probably how long he'll live. That's the Dan Wozniak story. And Rachel Buffett, she was later charged as an accessory to murder for lying to police. And she got 3 months in prison. I think. No. She got 32 months in prison with probation, time served. Buffett served 2 years in prison. So Rachel went to prison for 2 years as an accessory to murder with Dan for lying to police. And then you have Sam and Julie who are dead. And that's just so messed up. all for money because Dan wouldn't get a job and Rachel wouldn't get a job because they thought they were going to make it as actors, you know? It's like, our big break's just around the corner, right? Okay? This play. You know, someone's going to see it. They're going to love it. I'm going to be in all of the fucking movies, right? No. Dan, you're just one of, like, a billion other people trying to make it in Hollywood, and you're not that charismatic, and you're not that good of an actor. So, you murdered people, and it's terrible. So that is the Dan Wozniak case. It was all really stupid. It probably all could have been solved by Dan and Rachel just getting jobs like normal people, but instead they murdered Sam and Julie for $62,000, and they never had the wedding or honeymoon. So that's great. So what do we learn from the Dan Wozniak case? Well, you know, I don't know. Don't trust your neighbors. Well, that's a shame because I like neighbors, you know. It's sad. You can't trust anyone. But not everyone is like Dan, you know. Not everyone wants to murder people for money. So, you know, meet your neighbors, be friends with your neighbors, but keep an eye out. So that's just a thought. And, you know, when your friend tries to become an actor or a rapper, tell them to keep their day job, you know. You need money. You do need money. Dan was lazy, but it's like, you can't be that lazy. If you're in debt that much, you won't get any job. There are a lot of easy jobs out there. I have an easy job. A really easy job, to be honest. And I make okay money. Not great money, but it's okay. Probably because it's a really easy job. You know? So, I don't know why Dan turned to murder. And I don't know why Dan turned to crime and then decided to pick, you know, the worst crime you can commit. Murder. Which is, you know, probably one of the hardest crimes to get away with. You know, it was his first crime too. Well, I don't know that for a fact, but probably one of his first crimes. So he got it in over his head. I don't know. Dan's a moron. And he's still alive right now. He's serving his time in San Quentin State Prison, which is a terrible prison to be in California. So if you want to write Dan a letter, go ahead and do so. He is at San Quentin. I'm sure you can look up his address. So he did get sentenced to the death penalty. But again, California isn't really good about executing people. So I wouldn't expect him to get killed anytime soon by lethal injection. So that is the Dan Wozniak case, and thank you for listening today, and I hope you listen next time. Look out for my next video, my next podcast, whatever platform you're listening on.